Wow.
On that note.
Welcome to episode 3 of Ask Bink. This week we're going to talk about company and hiring and what a company could be doing to attract top talent in the marketplace, including using recruiters and not including using recruiters. You know, companies are at all sorts of different stages, but at the same time they all have one thing in common: they all need top talent in order to be successful. So how does a company, utilize all kinds of different resources out there, job boards, their own internal, referral system, and then also including recruiters to attract top talent. So I mean, let's take it all the way from like super bootstrap, angel funded startup, right? What's the first thing you do when you need to hire? Let's talk about it being hiring engineers, just because that's what we spend a lot of our time doing. But this could, I think, really just transcend product, marketing, business development, sales. I think a lot of the same avenues will apply.
I think I work with students a lot on campuses whenever I'm outside of work here, and teaching recruiting and how to drive people into your organizations. And I always tell them it's really simple and super elementary. But I think even this principle applies to companies of all sizes, from Fortune 500 all the way down to 2 people, and we need our 3rd hire. Tap your network of friends. It seems like such an elementary concept, but you'll be amazed when people won't go to their network of friends, their network of personal acquaintances first and foremost, and really just go out and attempt to make friends within a community that does that, and really marketing yourself through your own personal network. I think that's going to be the #1 rule of recruiting. I think you'll see where even most of the startups, at least especially in our market, you see a ton of people who just go out and they network constantly. They're out just making friends and talking to people in their network, and they're asking all of their employees and offering big referral bonuses if they'll go out and just talk to their friends to bring people into their company. I think it's amazing how people don't just go out and tap their immediate personal network.
See, I disagree. I think you should always go to a headhunter first. Friends are overrated. They lie, they turn their back on you. I think that you're definitely right. You got to go to your friends first. You got to reach out to the people. I think they should give more incentives. They're willing to pay us a $30,000 fee. They should be willing to, give their employees maybe $5,000 if they can help transition someone into their company, which I think a lot of companies don't do. At the end of the day, though, it's better to have someone like us in place, just to get. It's not just about finding the talent, it's about making the transition and getting all the BS out of there. You know what I mean? Like we talked about last time, the whole first date thing. You're not going to get that out of a friend. There's always that relationship in place, so it's like, I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings, I don't want to hurt that guy's feelings, and if you keep it a little bit faceless and a little bit more just pure business, I feel like you're going to get a better result. But yeah, in the beginning, I'd agree. Definitely, reach out to your friends, reach out to their networking.
I think when it's like a small bootstrap startup, only a couple guys, you really have to bring on board a friend, because it's so much more about personality and just meshing with the people that you're going to be working with, the technology, whatever you're going to be doing, people are going to be able to do it. It's a lot more about just clicking with the people you're going to work with. A recruiter could find that for you, but when it's such a small group, I think it's a lot just more about, I guess, what you said, but a little bit about just reaching out to your network and finding someone that matches between that.
Yeah, I guess I want to be clear to say that it's not necessarily about going out and finding your buddy who you went to high school with or you went to college with, that you go drink beer with on Friday night, but at least going out and talking to that buddy and asking him who he knows, who happens to write great object-oriented code and knows a little something about whatever technology you're happening to build.
I was going to say, it depends on the company and technology versus who they need to bring on board. It's like a company looking for salespeople, then it's not too hard to find a generic good salesperson. But if they're looking for somebody to work with, a MySQL database, have experience with this form of Java and know how to do this kind of algorithm, then you're not going to really find those people through friends. It's so niche, so specific. That's where we come in, because we do the digging for them.
I disagree, first of all. I think there's nothing harder to find than a good salesperson, but I agree that it can be a little tougher whenever it comes down to finding a very niche individual.
Like what Pete was saying in the beginning, especially for startups, when they're working 12 hours a day, that cultural fit is so important. When you're literally there from 6 in the morning to 8 at night, you have to be around people who not only you get along with, but are also really passionate about the project itself. And when you go outside of that, I think it seems to kind of dwindle away a little bit.
So using a referral network, asking everyone in your company to refer their friends over, refer their colleagues over, I think most executives would think of that option, right? And they would say, hey, everyone, we're hiring, refer your friends. But how do you get someone who's naturally, naturally introverted, naturally not kind of, programmed to go out and network and, talk to people that they might not, be talking to otherwise? How do you get them to do that?
Well, just one thing, I think like a common myth is that it's candidates are hesitant to give referrals because they think like, oh, I'm referring somebody who's not actually looking. It's seen applied as kind of like a bad thing, but I don't know, from my perspective, I actually look at it reverse. If somebody gives a referral, they're saying that I'm vouching for this person to be a good engineer, a good programmer, a good manager. So in a certain sense, people should be more, first of all, just open giving referrals because it's a compliment as opposed to like kind of telling somebody, this guy's an active looker, but you should call him. It's a compliment if you refer somebody because you're saying that this guy I know is talented, I know is good, you should try calling him. So that's just the one thing.
Have you guys ever talked to people that work for companies that are like super passionate about recruiting other people into their organization? You ever ask them like why they're more passionate than some other company who is just as interested in hiring?
Yeah, actually, I think you raise an interesting point, and Eli to some extent has a good point. Kind of phrasing referrals in the right light, not saying this person's actually looking, but more just saying, dude, this guy's a bomb, we should really get him to come work here. Past that, though, I think to an extent, the kind of guy you're talking about, you're right. I think it's more about the type of person. You say, like, what about those guys who are just naturally introverted and aren't, like, how do you get them to go out and recruit? Frankly, I don't think you do. I think you lean on the horses in your organization, the guys who are super passionate, who are cool with being super vocal about it. My experience is that trying to motivate people and trying to engage them, if that's just not the kind of person they are, by and large, as a manager, you're really wasting your time trying to motivate those guys who just aren't going to go out there and talk to a bunch of people about it. You lean on the guys who are super passionate, who are cool with being vocal, and you make that a big portion of their job, and you reward them very healthily, very healthy for doing something like that. And maybe if that guy who's a little introverted sees his manager knock down 10 or 12 extra thousand in a year because he was willing to go out and shake some hands and tell people about his company, then maybe that does open him up the following year.
You're missing out on a huge talent pool if you don't get that guy that's quiet and kind of doesn't want to go out of his way to find people. You're missing out on a huge talent pool.
You absolutely are, but I think it's just more of as a manager, you have to look at what's most effective and efficient for your time, and is it trying to motivate a guy who is scared to answer his telephone, much less go out and actually try to sell something? As a manager, is that a solid use of your time? I think there are things you can do to incentivize it. I think you offer incentive, you offer bonus referrals like you were talking about. You phrase referrals in a better light. You're not asking for people who are actively looking. You're asking for people who are exceptionally good at what they do and would make a huge impact on your company. Those are the kind of things you do, but at the end of the day, you can't go out and walk up to that engineer who is brilliant in his own right, but just isn't comfortable going out and doing that. As a manager, you're wasting your breath.
Well, I think you can combat that by making the process a little bit less formal. Not every engineer out there is going to be great at going out and networking and bringing people into his company, but if the company itself hosts some kind of like a mixer or a networking event, like, hey, bring 10 of your friends, have them check out what we're doing here, what you're doing here, this is a big part of your life now, so make it more of like a community type thing. On the side, they can be like, wink, wink, we don't want your buddies who are like stalkers at Walmart, we want your friends who are engineers here, but have them come in, have them come check out what we're doing. And it's not going to be a thing where people are going to be filling out, applications when they get there, but I think the trickle effect will work. Maybe a month later, 2 months later, someone might reach out to their friend and be like, hey, you know what, it seemed like a really cool place that you're working, why don't you, introduce me over there. And that way it takes a little bit less or more pressure off the engineer himself who might not be the best networker.
So relying on referrals is one thing. What do you guys think of posting ads on job boards or picking up accounts with online databases and mining them for talent? How valuable is that right now? A good use of time, good use of money.
Yeah, we go so many rounds around here. It's talking about like active versus passive candidates, and kind of trying to find that right balance of people who really are great at what they do. And and I guess my experience is that from time to time, people who are great at what they do are pushed into a position to actively look, and in that case, job boards and things like that reach those kind of people. So I guess I hesitate to say that it's not valuable to maybe make it kind of a part of your arsenal, but I think you're definitely making a huge mistake by dumping all your eggs into that basket.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be support more than anything else. I mean, the good candidates might not have their resumes on Monster, some obviously do, but I think those guys still check out the websites and see the postings, and just to see who's hiring.
Yeah,
for sure on like LinkedIn.
I don't know, I'll talk to guys who have been at their job for 5 years and can't name a single startup in the city of Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, so I think it's kind of hit and miss. Like I said, I wouldn't say don't do it. Like, I guess, throw it up on InPost, great resource. Like, someone like the more broad.
Like Craigslist, $25, throw it up there.
Craigslist, the reason I like InPost and stuff like that is because it kind of is like market central. People will go on there just to see what's happening in the market. Crunchboard, as much as I hate to tech crunch, I'll go ahead and do it here. Crunchboard people will go on to just because it kind of is like a source of what's going on in the market as well as what roles are out there. And I think maybe that's kind of the best blend where you're most likely to hit that pseudo-passive, active talent base kind of right in there, that blend. So we're ready to go to part 2.